easy to explain it. I think it's quite self-explanatory. This is replacing the resolution due to the change of dates. So changing the resolution, changing the date of the bylaw from the amended bylaw of 2015 to a new bylaw of 2022, and that means it will be eligible for a 5-year review. It also determines that, and I point out, the proposed bylaw is the most appropriate form of bylaw, and the bylaw does not give rise to any implications under the New Zealand Bill of Rights Act. This revokes the bylaw. So I move that.
Right. Councillor Lynch. Hang on, I can't hear you, Councillor. I'm not as good as my mother at lip reading.
Sorry, Your Worship, I was just seconding it.
Okay, I have a move and a seconder. So does everybody understand what we've done?
Except now, Councillor Church, this is where you raise how you want the amendment.
Okay. So Councillor Church, you have got an amendment to one of the maps on Kiritahi Beach.
You're on mute, Councillor.
Sorry, thank you. On Kiritahi Beach, which is on page, I've got it on my page.
So probably the best way to
28.
do it, that it actually reflects our true boundary.
Yes. So we've actually done a good job of putting the white shaded area of the Auckland City Council on there for the land, but we haven't transferred the white shaded area onto the beach area, which is part of the delegation of Auckland City Council. So we just need to move that westerly onto covering that on the actual map. And the wording at the top helps to clarify where that Auckland border is on the map. But when we go back to, for example, page 94, but this is in quite a few times in the wording, we haven't actually transferred the words about Auckland City Council. It just says Kiritahi Beach, the beach known as Kiritahi Beach, rather than the beach known as Kiritahi Beach, the Waikato District Council portion of it. So the wording on the map's correct. The visual's not quite right. The wording in all of the dog exercise area descriptions needs those additional words to clarify that boundary.
All right. Okay, staff have got that, I'm assuming, those amendments. All right. Is there any
clear, isn't it, Hannah?
Yes, it's clear for me.
Yeah, thank you.
Is there any further questions? Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. Just one thing on page, just some clarity on page 94, the dog exercise areas as outlined on the map. But what we've got as a resolution is to extend the on-lead dog area from the Air Force Bridge through to the existing area now, but it's not on the map. Does that make sense? So we had said that from the Air Force Bridge back to currently where it's in a dog leash area. We don't have that reflected in what we've got in on our agenda.
Hannah?
Sorry, could you just clarify? So that's in Raglan. What box are you looking at?
I'm looking on page 94. And it's at the dog control bylaw. It's the map for Papahua camping grounds and the domain. And so in our resolution, we've got that it will be restricted from the Air Force Bridge back towards the boat ramp, that it will be on lead, but we haven't reflected that on the map.
Yes, through the chair, we don't map on lead areas. On lead areas, or dogs are required to be on lead in all public places by default. So we have a note of that on the map, but otherwise we only directly map prohibited areas or dog exercise areas.
Okay. Right, is there any other questions?
Your Worship, just to be pedantic.
Hang on, Councillor Willerton.
Right.
So it's probably more procedure thing. I was here at the hearing, but I wasn't able to be in the deliberations because I was in another meeting. So do I, even though I agree with it, I was just wondering, do I vote or do I abstain?
No. Kirsty's shaking her head. So what does that mean, Kirsty?
You were at the hearing, but you weren't at the deliberations.
Yes, because I wasn't able to make deliberations because I had another council meeting I had to attend, a regional meeting. So therefore, I wasn't then able to partake in some of the deliberations and comment on it, although I support it. But and I got the last day, but I didn't get the meat of the conversation. So I was just sort of thinking that I was probably in my interest better to abstain because. I just wanted to ask the question.
Gayleen?
Yeah, I thought you might want me to answer that. So Councillor Willerton, because you were in the hearings and everything, and there's a full paper that's gone to this meeting that you're making a decision on. So you can vote on it.
Yeah.
That's right.
Okay.
Just wanted to check. Thank you.
Councillor Beck.
Good question.
I was at neither, Gayleen, but I'm happy to take a view on the paper, which I think is what you're saying. I'm
Yes.
taking
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't there, just got one question, Hannah, on the map for Tamahiri. There's a slightly expanded dog off-lead area proposed than was originally notified, but it may just be the way the map looks. In fact, what it now does is it blocks the driveway entry into the park. Is it intended that we shift the driveway to make it slightly larger, or is it just a schematic that's not meant to be, to scale?
All right.
Through the chair, I don't think any change was made to the map post consultation, but yeah, that's a good point in noting the driveway. I'll just note that with our open spaces team, and when they do the actual fencing, they can determine if it should or shouldn't cover the driveway area.
Thank you.
Councillor Church.
Yeah, thank you, Worship. Just being pedantic to make sure that if we're doing any amendments that they're covered off both in the policy and the bylaw.
We are assured they are.
Thank you.
Orioid. God, I'm over dogs.
No, we're not. Page 54, we have another recommendation.
Yeah, okay. So I've got the first one on page 53. So it's been moved and seconded by Councillor Sedgwick and Lynch. I'm going to put it all in favour. Please raise a paw. Oh, hang on. Hang on, can you just hold your hand up? I'm trying to count. I'm a bit slow today. You all know that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, I've got past 7. I'm right. Carried. Any opposed? None opposed. Carried. Next one.
The next one is a recommendation I'm very pleased to move. The recommendation is that the council release the unredacted minutes and footage of the deliberations held on the 22nd, 23rd of March. The recommendation is that the council notes that there is significant public interest in regard to the deliberations for the dog control bylaw and policy, resolves to waive legal privilege in relation to the advice which was provided during the deliberations meeting of the Policy and Regulatory Committee, and releases the unredacted minutes and video recording of the Policy and Regulatory Committee deliberations. And this is I'm pleased to, as I say, I'm pleased to be able to move this because this was never the intention that it would be held up so long. And I think this is a very, very, very sound move, and I move that.
Right. Councillor Thompson, you seconding it? Right. Is there any other speakers to it? If there's no speakers, I'm going to put it. All in favour, please raise a paw. I think I've got most. Yep, carried. Is that the end of the dogs?
That, Your Worship, is the end of the contentious part of the dogs, and we can look forward to them enjoying the Waikato. Thank you.
Thank you. Look, I just want to say a couple of things here, because there will be some people that are obviously sitting on YouTube watching these decisions and deliberations through this today. And it's probably fair to say I've been pretty disappointed in the attitude of some of the public in the Waikato district and the way they've attacked the councillors and attacked myself personally as well. And they've done themselves no good by actually making it personal by attacking councillors. Councillors work really, really hard at what they do to try and make a difference within the Waikato, and people who think it is all right to ridicule them, accuse them and make allegations about them online, it's just not acceptable to me. And I think it really annoys me that that's what it came down to. And one thing, and the public might as well know this as well, as I've always said, one of the worst jobs you can do in this job is do a dog bylaw review, and that has certainly been the way this year. So the public haven't covered themselves in glory in any way, those that have taken up the mantle of attacking council and staff. So to you, have a real good think about it before it comes up again in 5 years' time. Councillor Lynch.
I'd just like to congratulate Councillor Sedgwick for her handling of the whole process. There were parts of it that were really difficult, but there were parts of it that were quite enjoyable. Councillor Sedgwick, thank you very much for it.
Thank you. That's extremely kind. I
no, we can stop thanking now.
I think there were a few things that people misunderstood, and one of them, which I think we need to incorporate in our Zoom meetings, is the understanding that councils use more than one screen. So there was a lot of accusation that we weren't looking into the screen and we were doing other things. We actually have two screens. One is the screen on which we look at the Zoom and interact, and the other is the screen which has the agenda, which we need to follow to be able to be up with it and also to see what submitters are saying. So I do take personal issue with that. We are doing our job and we're doing it as best we can, but unlike you, we're not just looking into the screen, we're also looking at the agenda, and some of us have, in my case, in looking at the screen and the agenda and the time clock, was quite a exercise. So I'd just like that to be taken on board. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sedgwick, and I've got to say it's been incredibly stressful for you, and I want to thank you in front of everybody too. I know it's been really hard, and you and I have had lots of conversations about this. So yeah, well done. Righto, people, let's move on. Okay, so we'll move to the next agenda item, which is 7.3, which is the earthquake-prone buildings on page 129. Mr. Bellick, you there?
Good morning, Your Worship, councillors, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, so I'll take the report as read, if you please, and happy to answer any further questions that anyone has any. I think we went through it very thoroughly at the couple of workshops we've had and the last council type meeting. So, but happy still to answer anything you have.
No, I think it's pretty clear. I think done a good process, taking the feedback away and come back with a revised. So I'm more than happy with it. So I'm happy to move this one. If anybody happy to second it or any comments? Councillor Willetton's happy to second it. No further comments. I'm going to put it all in favour. Please raise a hand. Carried. Thank you, Mr. Bellick.
As always, thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Right, we'll now move on to 7.4 on page 141, which is remits. I'm not rushing off to do a remit. We did one last year. So this is just to let you know that some councils may be coming to us in the future. And as Gavin thinks we've got a burning issue that we should draft up a remit, I certainly can't think of any. Councillor Willetton.
We have a remit that they actually listen to our remits and act on them.
Well, this is the trouble. They listen to them. You know, the remit I took last year got you know, you couldn't have got higher support for it than we got it. But at the end of the day, what becomes of it? And this is the trouble. That's one of the questions that Paula Southgate's actually been asking of local government. You know, what the hell are we doing with these remits? You know, we don't get a report back in that on them. So I think they've been under a bit of pressure to report back on what they've actually done with them. So hopefully this year at the AGM we'll find out. Councillor Eyre.
My question is, have we been asked if we would like to support any from other councils? Firstly, And
No,
also just,
Not yet. So
Okay, and
they'll
just-
come to us if they do.
okay, but just another question in respect of, we have temporary measures at the moment that allow us to meet remotely. Has there in the past, and I don't from recollection remember any remit that's gone through requesting there be some some long-term standing legislative
Councillor.
measures to allow.
Councillor, that was our remit last year.
It was, yeah, okay, that's what I'm saying. Apologies if I have my memory's dusty.
And it was supported.
But there was, yes,
I was supportive, but no change
but
made.
it's only temporary.
I know, and it's stupid. Councillor Beck.
Yeah, thank you. It's really on that same point. So the LGNZ, in spite of a united front from other councils, have been unable to achieve a change. I think this is a kind of an existential issue for council, actually. You know, the way in which we wish to meet going forward is in part in person, but also for greater accessibility and transparency will include a measure of electronic or Zoom meetings where we need what's currently tied up with the health orders to actually be in place to achieve quorum. Perhaps, Gavin, I see you got your hand up. You know, is there another path? Another path we must follow, you know, because this path ain't going anywhere.
Gavin?
So through you, Your Worship. Look, I to be honest, I'm not sure where the hold-up is, whether the hold-up is with DIA. I don't really understand why it's a 3-monthly. I understand why it's coming under the auspices of the epidemic notice, but as we, I think, are getting indications, it's going to cease to be an epidemic soon. In which case, does that ability cease completely? I don't know. What I can do is I'll raise it with Stephen Ward, not Stephen Ward, I'll raise it with contact at DIA and see whether they can shed any light on whether any consideration's been given to it, because it does seem to me to be just sensible way of making sure you can conduct business in whatever the circumstances are. So if that answers your question, Councillor Beck, hopefully it does.
In the first instance, yes, I think that's a great next step. And I guess I'm urging, perhaps through you, Mel, and that subject to that answer, we actually give this serious consideration, and perhaps we need to write directly to the Minister. Perhaps we need to make some other representation, because it doesn't oblige us to meet electronically, but it gives us that flexibility and ability to do so where appropriate. And I think it's really important, actually, not just for us, but for all. Thank you.
Well, I think for the future, considering we're upgrading our technology in the chamber, which will make it easier to do it. Considering we've been working like this for 2 years, I'm not suggesting in the long term that we actually, a council would continue to operate like this, but in the occasion, like today, this morning, the way I felt today, I probably wouldn't have gone into the chamber today. I probably would have put in an apology if we'd been in the chamber, and you would have been in the chair, sir. So, and I could have, well, maybe I could have done it from a Zoom. I don't know, but, at the end of the day, it's a tool that we should have access to, that we just don't seem to, except for a pandemic order, which is absolutely stupid. Gavin, have you got some more you want to add?
Yeah, just also to respond to, I think Councillor Eyre was the one that raised it, was also that second thing. Now, I don't know what the remits are likely to be at the moment, but what I do know is His Worship and myself have been invited to a meeting to discuss what might be possible remits, I think is sometime in early May. But I can't remember the details of that at the moment.
Yeah. All right. Councillor Eyre.
Just one more point to add, just in respect of the discussion previously, just also on so many different levels, in terms of climate change as well. Here we are all running our vehicles into council, when in actual fact, if we actually want to be meeting from home and actually reducing our emissions, it adds more weight to our argument as well.
Yeah, climate change only goes so far when it comes to common sense with them, though, Wellington, unfortunately, sometimes. Councillor Church.
Yeah, I guess I'm going to play the devil's advocate a little bit. I agree with that it should be a tool in the box, but I do think also it's quite a complex area in terms of how it also could be used as an anti-democracy tool, for example, where who decides when and who and where meetings are held and who can attend or have accessibility, when generally I guess the whole of even at central government level that's set up to be debating chambers, for example. So I just think there's probably some quite bigger, broader discussions around how does this fit in with a lot of other pieces of like the Human Rights Act, etc., and our democratic processes as a whole. But I do think personally it does on the outside mean that we should have it as a tool in some way, shape or form. Yeah.
All right. Do I need to remove that, Galen?
No.
No. All right, we'll move on, everybody. We've still got a bit to get through. So we'll move to 149, which is the triennial elections.
And I think, yep, Dale's online.
We got Dale. Where is he?
Yep.
Show yourself, Dale.
I've got my camera on. Kia ora, everyone.
Morning, Dale. How are you?
Yeah, good. Thank you, everyone.
Good. Right, we've got this report in front of us. So does anybody need to present it, or is it self-explanatory?
It's fairly self-explanatory, Your Worship. It's just really some background information, which of course has to be updated now that we've got the decision from the LGC. But the key point there really is the order of candidate names. Our councillors have this option every 3 years between alphabetical, pseudo-random and random. So it's fairly self-explanatory. I've given you some statistics there about the number of councils that are now moving from alphabetical to random. However, there are still a number of councils that prefer the alphabetical simply because it's simpler to use and it reflects the order, which is of names in the candidate directory. I also point out that Auckland Council has done quite a bit of research on this and has found no benefit in the order for people being elected. So they've resolved again to adopt alphabetical. Hamilton, on the other hand, has resolved again to go random, so fully random. So that's where every voting document has a different order of candidates. So it's really council's decision as to what they would prefer for this upcoming election.
Thanks, Dale. Personally, myself, my surname starting with S, I'm always at the back end of everything, and it's never made a difference to me. So I'd have to concur with Auckland's assumption of it. It doesn't make any difference. So whether your name starts with A or S or Z, effectively, that would be my view. Councillor Smith, and he's in the same boat as me too with the S.
Yeah, and I come after you. So yeah. I'm happy to move it and leave it at that.
Yeah, I don't see any point in changing either. Councillor Thompson, you second that? No further discussion. I'll put it all in favour. Please raise a paw. Carried. Thanks, Dale.
Thank you.
Just, sorry, just before Dale goes, if I may.
Yeah, wait,
yeah, thank you. Dale, obviously no move at this point in terms of looking at electronic voting or other than postal type voting. Is it right?
That is correct. This government has quite firmly said no to any form of electronic voting. So until, while this government is in government, there's no movement in that area.
And in terms of that, the Vote 16 kind of lobby, is that more directed at a central government vote at this time, or is there any, obviously we're too close anyway now to the current local government elections, but it's basically a push repeat, is it, on what we had last year?
Yeah, I can see no further changes to any legislation prior to this coming elections.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Dale. Okay, we'll now move to back into the supplementary open agenda items, which is 7.6, which is the Local Government Commission's determination on the Waikato District Council's representation.
So, excuse me, Miran, is this an open meeting?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's in the open part of your supplementary agenda. It's on page 12, I think it is.
Got it. Yep.
All right, so this is the determination that's come from the Local Government Commission, which is non-contestable, meaning you can't appeal it. So it is what it is. So we need to, where's the recommendation here? So we need to accept that basically on the recommendation. Is that correct, Galen? I'm looking at page 14. Is that it?
Yes, it's just that you note the determination so that you're aware of the 2022 representation arrangements.
All right, I'm happy to move that because you can't do much else with it. Seconded, please, Councillor Beck. All in favour, say aye. Carried. Any comments at all?
Against.
Against, Councillor Smith. Okay.
Never
Councillor here.
Just a comment, really. Obviously, I wasn't against, I was for, but just expressing on behalf of the Onewhiro and Pukekawa communities that they weren't entirely satisfied with the outcome. But as you say, Mayor Allen, it is what it is. And I guess it's up to them to, if they don't like the situation, perhaps put a candidate forward from those areas. Make it work for them.
Look, thanks for that. I got to, I haven't read the full determination. I'm one of those people, you know, once it's taken out of my hands, I never look behind me and I just keep going forward. So I'll be interested to see when on the maps what it looks like. But yeah, so I know that some will be happy and some won't be, but at the end of the day, it's determination. Move on. Rightio, next one is on page 36 in that same supplementary agenda is development contributions. And this is, we had this discussion and Will's down here. Will, I'll hand it over to you.
Morning, Your Worship, councillors. Yes, as Mayor Allen's alluded to, this is the topic that we spoke about in a workshop briefing last week, perhaps the week before. And we nutted down the recommendation to tweak the implementation around tiny residential units. So the policy has a 30 square metre limit, which over which you pay a whole development contribution. We've had very few of those, indicating that it's not a particularly useful tool within the policy at 30 square metres, and we suggested that 45 square metres might be more appropriate to capture some of those small one bedroom and studio units and provide a half charge for them. So that is the part A of the recommendation, and then the second part is just a note that staff are considering reviewing the policy, both in terms of the changes from the proposed district plan and what impact they might have on the policy, but we also indicated that it might be useful for us to take a more of a first principles policy review and just check whether we're still comfortable with some of the sort of principles outlined in there, and tidy up, or you know, have a more thorough review of some of the things like this 30 and 45 square metres and other things as well. So the intention would be that staff will get our ducks lined up as to what we might think is some sensible suggestions for you, and bring those to you to consider.
Right, thanks. Councillor Beck.
Yeah, thank you, Will. I'm happy to move this. I think actually the second part of the recommendation is the more important one, longer term, and it's an acknowledgement that people are choosing to live in different ways than, you know, traditionally the quarter acre section white picket fence. We're seeing lots of different ways, and some of that's driven by affordability, and some of it just by, you know, changing times and cultural shifts in what we choose to call a home. But providing options and flexibility in a way that fairly contributes to our hard infrastructure is what this bit's about. And I think the first part of the recommendation from 30 to 45 just reflects the reality of what we've seen, and, you know, takes away some unintended consequences of the policy as we first put it out there. So very supportive, and thank you for your work. Look forward to the second part.
All right, thanks, Councillor. Councillor Church.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. So yeah, I'm happy to second it. I do have a question though, Will, is so you're going to go back and retrospectively apply this to the handful of applications of this, so basically they're going to get a bit of a windfall back of money as my interpretation of that?
Yes, through you, Your Worship. There's one or two applications that have formally requested we can reconsider their development contribution, so they are still waiting on an answer. And there is another six or so that have not. They just paid it to get on with it. But we'll be contacting them if there is a refund due and making sure that happens. The development contributions is a two-stage process, so they get a notice and then sometime later they get an invoice. So I don't think we may not have invoiced many or any, so it might just be a revised notice. So they'll be happy to receive that.
Right. So my question was, do you know how much that is? Because I thought from my memory from the workshop that some money had been collected for this, and that therefore it's a withdrawal out of it, and just if you had an idea how much that was.
Yeah, no, Annette might be online, or Trish, who might be able to help, but my recollection is that very few, if any, have paid it, because it only came in July, so they would have had to apply for a consent and build it in their code compliance or 224. So there might be a couple, but I don't think so.
Yeah, but it's potentially quite a bit because no, thank you. All right.
All right, so I have a mover, and did I have a second, Galen? Oh, Councillor Church seconded it. That's right. Trying to remember. Sorry, I got a foggy brain today. So if there's no further discussion, I'm going to put it all in favour. Please raise a paw. Carried. Thanks, Will. Rightio, we'll now move also in the supplementary agenda to page 43, which is the council facilitated vaccine policy. Gavin, is that you or?
Yes, no, it's me, Your Worship. Thank you. So this is really just putting in place or removing the policy that was in place, the vaccine pass requirement, which we put into effect from last Monday. So it's really picking up on the discussions that yourself, Councillor Patterson, and I had with the various changes that took place. So it's really just covering this in terms of making sure it's clear there's been a formal resolution.
Cool. Rightio, no questions. Well, I'm happy to move it. Someone's one of the decision makers. Councillor Patterson's not here, but Councillor Thompson's happy to second it. No further discussion. I'll just for a show of hands again. Carried. Thanks, Gavin. Righto, Galen, I think that just about completes the in public section, correct?
You just need to move the resolutions.
So can I move to get somebody to move that we go into public excluded, please? Councillor Thompson, Willerton, all in favour, please raise a paw. Carried. We will now move into public excluded.
Just give me one moment, Your Worship, to stop the live stream.